Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and today I am back with my April book haul. So all the books that I bought in April, which there's plenty because I went to a lot of independent bookshops and had lovely times. I'll talk about those later. Then some lovely gifts that I got from lovely people and also some of the books that I was sent by publishers. Now, I know that I only did a book haul 2 videos ago, but I have been MIA a little bit with the channel and making content. I've certainly not been missing action with any of the bookshops, as we'll see, but yeah, I have been a little bit lax. There's a whole video talking about what's been going on that I will link down below, but basically things have just got very busy. But I'm hoping that routine is coming. I mean, I've got a whole week at home next week. Imagine, that's not something that's happened for a while. But let's get on with the books. And as always, I'm going to talk about the books from publishers. And I have 4 books that I have shown on the channel before. However, they're all in proof form. And I just thought I would share again as they've come in their final edition. So first up, one of my absolute favourite authors, Akwaeke Emeze, has a new book, which I think is out any day now, called Somadina. And this is another of their, I was going to say books for younger readers, and that is true, but also for all of their readers, frankly, having read Pet. I still haven't read Bitter. I don't think this is within the same world. I could be wrong because, as always, if I'm really excited about a book from a favourite author, I don't want to know much about it before I head to it, and that is the case with this, but I will be getting to it very soon. I last shared it when it came in a specially bound copy, which I didn't get around to reading and I felt really guilty about. Then we have Ocean Vuong, another of my most anticipated books of 2025, The Emperor of Gladness. I absolutely loved On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I thought it was fantastic. I've heard brilliant mutterings and murmurings about this one, but because it's one that I'm so excited for, I've tried to avoid knowing too much because, like I just said, I like to go into books that I'm excited about knowing very little. This will probably be a real emotional roller coaster, and I will thank Ocean Vuong for ruining me along the way. So we have that. Then Kit DeWall has a new book which is already out. You can get your mitts on it now. This is The Best of Everything. Again, one that I don't know too much about because Kit DeWall is an author where every book of theirs I've read, I've absolutely loved. I think she's a fantastic writer. She's also currently the chair of judges for the Women's Prize for Fiction. I feel like this is about possibly like an older woman, maybe. And I'm always up for older female narrators, but I could be completely wrong. I'm hoping it's a real surprise, and that's why I don't want to know too much about it. I just want to go on whatever journey Kit wants to take me on. And then last of the books that I've shown you before is Blackwood's Blue Sky by Owen Ivey. This is the finished hardback, and excitingly, fingers crossed, I may be doing an event with Eowyn in June. Once I know more, I will let all of you know. If I know before this goes live, I'll pop a link to the event in the comments, in the description down below. If not, keep your eyes peeled on social media and I'll let you know.
He says, after saying I've not been making any content recently, I'm trying to get better and back in the swing. Anyway.
I believe this is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. So that sounds very interesting to me, but I have absolutely loved both of Eowyn's previous novels. Absolute 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10s for me. So yeah, very excited for this one. On to books I haven't shared with you before. First up, we have The Parallel Path by Jen Ashworth. This is out in July. I should say, just for full transparency, Jen is a friend of mine. I adore her. And this is her latest, I think it's a mixture of memoir and writing about walking and the north of England. I love the north of England. I'm from the north of England and live in the north of England. So yeah, I'm excited for that. And having read the latest David Nichols, which I know wasn't non-fiction, but that was about walking, I really enjoyed it. We used to go on big walking holidays when I was a kid, and we'd do like up to 12, 13, 14 miles a day. So this, I think, is going to bring some of that back. And walking is also one of the reasons, or those walking trips is one of the reasons that I got into books so much, because my great uncle Derek used to memorise Sherlock Holmes stories and read me tell me 2 on every walking day, and everyone would try and keep up so they could listen in. But that's what got me into Sherlock, so excited for that. Then we have the new Richard Armitage book, The Cut. Now, I'm a big fan of Richard Armitage. I think he's, well, let's move on. Yes, big fan of him. Haven't read Geneva yet, but I've been meaning to, and I'm thrilled that I've been sent his new one, which is out in August. I can never, if I see the number of a month, I just can't automatically do it. I'm not great with numbers, much better with words. And then very little about this. I think, though, he says, it came out as, or might have come out as an audiobook already, and that intrigues me. I think it's going to look like that. I'm intrigued, and as I said, big fan of Richard Armitage. Very excited for this one in due course. I want to get to more thrillers. Next up, I have 3 books that I asked for from the lovely folk at Scribe, and they very kindly sent me. First of the 3 is Colony by Annika Norlin, which is translated by Alice E. Olsen from the Swedish, I think. Yes, it says on the back, not just a bestseller, a mega bestseller in Sweden, and winner of 2 of its biggest literary awards. I've heard that this is kind of culty. I mean, Colony kind of gives that vibe anyway, and I do love a culty book, and I have been saying that with my 9th booktube birthday coming up, and then obviously 10 in a year's time, between those 2 booktube birthdays, I want to head to either books with themes like cults, maybe nuns. I've got a great idea for a nunnish reading blog, and I've thought of what I think is an absolutely corking title for that. But anyway, cult fiction or cult-based fiction could be one of those things. Get summery vibes off it. I think this could be a great one for the summer. It's out now, as is The Extinction of Irina Ray by Jennifer Croft, and I enjoyed Jennifer's previous book, Homesick. It had real moments of like raw emotion in it that I thought was really powerful. I mean, also the cover is absolutely stunning, but the premise really intrigues me because it is about a group of translators who go to a famous author's house in Poland, and the author suddenly disappears. So it's kind of, I'm hoping, a book about translation and with sort of maybe some prods at the literary world, but also a mystery, and that sounds like just my bag. And then last but not least, from Scribe, I asked for The Knowing by Madeline Ryan, although I'm very naughty because I have, is it A Room on Earth? A Room Called Earth on my shelves, and haven't read it yet. What really drew me to this, very much like A Room Called Earth, is how this book is about making the ordinary extraordinary, and I think also a little bit other, and that, yeah, is the sort of thing that I do really enjoy, and that cover is an absolute stunner. When I saw that in the catalogue after wanting to go through, because I'd seen Colony, I was like, oh yes please. Then we have a book that was very kindly sent to me by the folk at Harper Beer. I think this might be out now. It's by Sophie Oxenen, who is an author I am a big fan of. This is, I believe, her first non-fiction, and it's called Same River Twice, Putin's War on Women, and it's translated, I should say, by Owen F. Weitzman. And this is a book that, you know, this subject, particularly around Ukraine, which this book looks at, is one that's really close to my heart, having worked with and still continuing to work with libraries in Ukraine. And so, yeah, this is one that I definitely want to get to very soon. I think it's one I'm going to head to after I've read the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction Shortlist, which is a vlog I'll be filming soon. Then from the lovely folk at One, or Pushkin Press, and One is an imprint within Pushkin Press, I've been sent Half Light by Mahesh Rao, another one of my most anticipated reads of the year. Very excited for this. I have read Mahesh previously and just find his writing fantastic, and so apologies for saying this yet again. I don't know much about what this is about, other than I'm really excited to read it very soon, and I need to get to it. And actually, I think one of the vlogs that I want to do in the not too distant future is one where I head to my most anticipated reads. I did start doing one of those and then it sort of fell apart. Then we have a book which I got very excited about when I got to interview the author at a showcase last year, and she was saying, well, when she described the book, because there wasn't any that I could read in advance because it hadn't quite been finished, but now it's here in proof form. What is it, Simon? It's Helm by Sarah Hall, and the premise of this just sounded so incredible. So Helm is a wind, and it's a wind in the north of England, and it has been around for centuries, and it is the main character in this book. And from what Sarah was saying, Helm is quite tricky, it's quite, it's a complex character. And the fact that this book goes over thousands of years in just that many pages, I mean, I don't know, I've got really excited vibes for this one. I've read Sarah Hall before and really enjoyed her writing, and so yeah, I'm keen to get to this one. As I am You Had to Be There by Jodie Harsh, which is, oh, I've just got mesmerised by that, haven't I? Of course I have. Jodie Harsh is a DJ here in the UK, and this I think is going to really appeal to me because we've DM'd a little bit on Instagram because Jodie's a huge book fan, and one thing that we haven't talked about is that at the time that Jodie was starting DJing, I was writing for Queer Magazine in the UK, and so went to a lot of the same clubs and bars and all that kind of stuff. So I think this is going to be very nostalgic for me. I've just made Jodie's memoir all about me, I didn't mean to, but I think that's going to be one thing that really resonates with me. So I'm really, 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 really excited for this and mesmerised by that cover. Then we have a book that I think I saw this on Book of Sin's Instagram. In fact, I'm pretty sure I did, and was like, oh wow, this sounds amazing. It's one that I had not heard about before. It's Ibis by Justin Haynes, and this is set in the Caribbean, where a small village take in I think it's a young boy, but it's definitely a young child. They take in a child, and from that moment things start to go really, really wrong. And so with there being a lot of superstition, people wonder, has this child cursed them, and have they brought a curse upon themselves? And I think we follow over quite a few decades of the sort of ripples of what happened, maybe even prior, and that just sounds like my kind of thing. Hadn't heard about it before, hadn't heard of Overlook as a publishing imprint either, but yeah, very excited for this one. I want to get to this one very, very soon. I want to get to all of them soon. I'm excited for all of them. Then to a book that I've actually read. And I can't remember if I included this in my last wrap up, because I won't lie to you, behind the camera where all of you are is utter chaos, because I've barely been at home for like on and off almost a month. Piles of books have just ended up everywhere, and it's something that I need to sort out once I'm back at home.
For good, from Saturday, as you're watching this, from Saturday I'll be home, yeah, for just over a week.
Anyway, this is Harriet Tubman live in concert by Bob the Drag Queen, and I thought this was absolutely brilliant. This is a book set in sort of roughly the present day. However, there's been something called The Return, where people from the past have just turned up again, and Harriet Tubman is one of them, and she was a really pivotal person and part of the Underground Railroad, and she's back and she wants to make an album, and she's working with this producer who's got a lot of stuff going on, which comes to the fore more and more as you read. And I just thought this was so brilliantly done and so poignant and so funny in parts and so heartbreaking in parts, and I've just suddenly turned this into a wrap-up accidentally. Speaking of which, my next video will be my February, March, April wrap-up, so I'm going to do a spring wrap-up where I'll talk about this in more detail, but suffice to say, loved it. A book that I'm quite shocked that I haven't read yet, because it's one that I'm, again, super duper excited for, is Nova Scotia House by Charlie Porter, and this tells of a queer couple with quite a big age gap, and the house and I guess the sort of
what's the word? Well,
the house and the home that they make for themselves, but also
there is a word that I'm looking for. Don't let me know in the comments down below, because I'll probably remember it. Not an Idaho, but a retreat? Something along those lines.
But it's where they can just be, and but I think we follow the relationship, and then stuff probably heartbreakingly, don't know what that noise was out there, stuff heartbreakingly happens. So yes, looking forward to that. And then lastly, from publishers, the lovely folk at Doubleday sent me 2 books that I requested. The first of which is Our Last Wild Days by Anna Bailey. I read, as you'll see in the aforementioned wrap-up when it comes next week, Anna's debut, Tall Bones, in April, and absolutely loved it. It's in part a mystery, but it's a real slow burn and actually a look at rural America, and I thought it was just wonderful, and so very excited for this, and again want to read it very soon. And then we have Tess Gerritsen's latest novel, The Summer House. No, it's not, it's The Summer Guest.
Me trying to read backwards on the screen, it's flipped.
The follow-up to The Spy Coast, and I have been a big fan of Tess Gerritsen for years, and actually Tess is part of the reason that I got back into reading after many, many years of not, because my friend Polly, when I was going for an operation, bought me Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie, and The Surgeon by Tess Gerritsen. I didn't read The Surgeon because, naughty Polly, I've known since I was 4, but I hadn't really thought, maybe a book about a psychopathic surgeon isn't the best to read before you have an operation. But I did read it during my recovery and very much enjoyed it and carried on reading that series. I've still got a few of those to go, I think. Elderly Retired Spies, brilliant. Can't wait to read that one because I really enjoyed the last one. Then on to gifts from lovely people. So, again, this is one that I may have mentioned in my last haul, but I don't mind mentioning again because I really want to shout about this book. I really, really loved it. I'm a big fan of the author. It's Human Nature by Jane Rawson, and this is a book that is very much looking at what is going on with the environment and climate in our world. It's a lot of big brain energy. I'll talk about it in more detail in my wrap-up because I have devoured it. Jane very kindly sent this from Australia, as it's not out here in the UK yet, but it should be, and I think this would be an absolute banger to end up on the next Climate Fiction Prize, which hopefully will have a second year. I thought this was brilliant, and the way that Jane looks at nature as someone who isn't like the biggest fan of the wilderness but really, really loves our planet is really interesting. There's a real interesting dichotomy there. But also, because I haven't mentioned this, Jane is an author of one of my absolute favourite books, From the Wreck, which I just thought was phenomenal and really, really different and have wanged on about quite a lot. So yeah, was delighted that she very kindly sent me this. And it was like a extra special birthday present. And speaking of that, the next book is a birthday present from my mother. We saw each other at the beginning of April, and I think it was the first time we saw each other this year, which was quite bonkers. It's Bookshop Tours of Britain by Louise Bolland. She did give me this and then say, Simon, why did we not write this book? And I was like, well, we just didn't. Another Louise got there first. But I'm hoping me and Mum are going to put this to good use because we're actually meeting up with the whole of the family. We're all going away together. And the area that we're going to, I think there are quite a few bookshops in here. And what I love about this book, having flicked through it, is that it gives you maps of certain areas and where you should head to. And that is just so much my bag. So yeah, very, very excited for that. Then another birthday present that arrived belatedly, but as far as I'm concerned, birthday presents can keep arriving as belatedly as they like, is Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liu. And Denise very kindly sent me this from my wishlist, which is always linked down below. And my wishlist is only books that I can't get in the UK from a bookshop. Dandelion was one of the books that was up for Canada Reads this year. I won't tell you where it came. You can find Canada Reads videos down below, and I urge you to watch it. It's one of my favourite bookish TV shows. It's a selection of books, each one being championed by a different person, and at the end of every episode for pretty much a week, one book gets voted out until there's a winner. Like I said, won't spoil where this one got to, but this just sounded so brilliant from the way it was pitched, the way it looks at a woman whose mother has left and I think is becoming a mother now herself, but also her life as an immigrant and feeling like an outsider. And yeah, it just sounded absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much, Denise. Then Chris got me 2 books in Leeds when we went to see the Sugar Babes and had a little bit of time before their gig. We got there a bit early and we went to the bookish type, which I absolutely love. And he picked up, I think, 3 books for himself and 2 for me. The first of which is Mare, I never quite know how to say this, by Danielle Giles. This is about nuns. And as I mentioned earlier, I have got an idea for a nunnish vlog. I don't know why that seems like real savage fodder books about nuns, but it does. And this is set, I think, in 990 AD. I believe there might be some sapphic shenanigans going on in it. The cover is an absolute banger, and this is one that I'm just super duper excited to get. So when I saw it and it was signed, I was like, yeah, please, may I get this? And then Chris was like, no, I'll buy it for you. As he did The King's Head, which I've not heard very much about, by Kelly Frost. But this sounds fascinating. It's set in the 1950s and it's about groups of female gangs who kind of take over London. And well, need I say more? No, I don't think I do, because that sounds absolutely great. Also, the hot pink is still rocking begin publishing in 2025. Really excited for this one, and we'll hopefully get to that one soon. And also, both of these are historical novels, and I definitely want to get to more historical fiction. Then we have another fairy tale retelling, which is very kindly sent to me by Susan Armstrong, who is an agent for a lot of my favourite authors. Joanna Cannon, Jess Kidd, I could go on. And she very kindly sent me Sour Cherry by Natalia Theodoridou. And this is a retelling of Bluebeard and Bluebeard's wives. And I recently saw Heather O'Neill, who is an author who I really love her writing. I need to read more of her books, frankly. If you go to her Instagram, her book reviews are just so brilliantly done. And the way she talked about this, I thought was fantastic. So yeah, very, very excited for that one. Now, on to books that I bought myself. And as I said, there have been a few. So first up, I'm going to go through some that I got from Blackwell's, then some that I got from random charity shops, generally National Trust charity shops, actually. Some I bought imported. And then we're going to go through lots and lots of indie bookshops that I've been to and purchased books. So from Blackwell's, first up we have There's a Monster Behind the Door by Gail Bellum. I could not find this anywhere. It's translated, I should say, by Karen Fleetwood and Letitia St. Lubert, and this was longlisted for the Booker Prize, International Booker Prize, sorry, and I was really, really excited about it. I mean, that whole long list I was super duper excited about, and I should say I'm currently reading the shortlist for a vlog that you'll get next Thursday. It wasn't shortlisted, but it has recently won the Republic of Consciousness Prize, I think I want to say. I am saying it. And yeah, one I want to get to very soon. Then, I don't know how I found out about Sam Morris. I'll just cover up that. This is Pieces of a Boy, and this is Sam Morris's memoir. I think I saw this on Blue Sky, and I have to say, Blue Sky is quieter than other social media platforms. However, it is really booky, and you do get some brilliant, slightly random recommendations, and this was one. So yeah, ordered that, as always here for a queer memoir. And then some queer poetry that I also ordered because I couldn't find it in any bookshops was Father Myself by James McDermott, and I believe this is about James's relationship with his father, also looking at queerness. And I do love me some queer poetry, and I've got quite a few that actually I want to go through very, very soon. I would do a vlog of that, but poetry vlogs or poetry videos never tend to do quite well, so I'm just going to sneak them into other videos, so I'll hook people in that way. Last but not least, from Blackwell's, another book that I have read is Idle Grounds by Christelle Bamford, and I read a review about this and thought, oh my goodness, this sounds so me. It's set in the 1960s in America. A family have all got together, all the cousins are together, and they notice one day that something odd is going on in the garden. It's like there's something whizzing around and it all feels a little bit odd. And then one of the cousins goes missing and the house almost seems to shift. So it's got this really odd folklore-y supernatural element to it. And like I said, thought would be absolute savage catnip. Sadly, as we'll discuss in my wrap-up, I didn't get on with it as well as I wanted to, and I was really, really sad about it. But yes, there we are, there's that. Then on to some delightful second-hand finds that I found in National Trust second-hand bookshops, which I'm a big fan of. The first of which is Layla Lalami's The Moors Account. I read Layla's latest book, The Dream Hotel, as part of reading all of the Women's Prize for Fiction longlist. It was one of my absolute favourites. I was gutted it didn't get shortlisted, but thrilled I'd found a potential new favourite author. So when I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, that feels like fate. I don't know if that happens to you when you're in a charity bookshop and then you see books that you've been like, or books by authors that you've been meaning to get to for ages. Well, I was thrilled when I found this, so picked that up. As I did, and I could not believe I found this in like pretty much perfect condition, Before We Hit the Ground by Salali Fiamania, and I've shown this on the channel before in proof form. It's one that I'm really keen to get to. It's about a queer man coming of age between Ghana and Scotland, and just sounds like, with the ways it looks at how cultures come together, how they clash and all those things, just my kind of thing. So yes, need to get to the proof of that soon. And then another one that I was overjoyed to find because I had also read this author when reading the Women's Prize for Fiction longlist this year and really loved her book Birding. This is Yesterday by Rose Ruan. don't know anything about it, just loved her writing in Birding. I know that I discussed the fact that it's a split narration, I preferred one narrator to the other, but still overall I thought the writing was fantastic. And so when I saw this, especially with that gorgeous cover, I was like, yes, please, and left with it. Then 2 imported books before we head on to all the books that I bought in independent bookshops in April. I have These Days by Lucy Caldwell, which is out here in the UK in paperback now. However, this cover is an absolute banger, and it is the latest in Sarah Jessica Parker's publishing imprint as part of Zando Books, SJP Lit, and I am slowly but surely trying to get my mitts on all of them. But this is about the Belfast Blitz, I believe, which I hadn't heard about, and also having recently been to Belfast, I meant to read it then but didn't for various reasons. Really, really keen to get to that one very, very soon. I feel like I've said that a lot of times. And last but not least of the imported books, before we head to books from independent bookshops, I got myself Emily St James Woodworking, which I had seen here and there on Instagram and just sounded fascinating. It's a book about 2 trans women, one who is a teacher and one's a pupil, and how, I guess it's about having people that you can see as hope for the future is what I'm getting from it. But with everything going on at the moment, I am all the more keen to support trans authors. I always have, I like to think, but I really want to make an even more concerted effort to, and find out more about the trans experience whilst doing so. And so I think this is going to be great, and I just think that cover is absolutely brill. Right, on to books from independent bookshops. So as I mentioned, me and Mum were together in April as we were at the party to celebrate Maggie O'Farrell's 25th year of publishing, as well as the Women's Prize for Fiction shortlist party. And Mum really wanted to, not Zig Zigar.
I mean, she probably loves Zig Zigar, I don't know, I'll ask her next time I see her. But
she really wanted to go to the book bar. I have been to the book bar a lot. I'm a big fan of it. I love Chrissy who runs it. I'm thrilled they're opening a second shop, and picked up 2 books there. The first of which is Beautyland by Marie Helene Bertino. One of the things that I'm noticing recently is I'm both harking for books that feel like the sort of things that I have loved before, for that comfort, and because also I know that I'll probably devour them, but I'm also really keen to read things that are quite different from what I've headed to before. And this is about an alien who starts to observe the Earth and through a old fax machine, say that wrong and you're in trouble, but through an old fax machine sends messages to her home planet about humans. And it's like I was saying earlier with the knowing, I really love books. Is that the bin men? For those of you who watch my vlogs, I know you really enjoy bin content.
in fact, Bin should have been here yesterday, it's Thursday morning. Moving on.
It's about an alien sending observations of humans through an old fax machine to their home planet, and looks at making the ordinary extraordinary, which, as I've said, I really enjoy. So we have that. And then I also picked up...
Am I going to have to pause while this goes past? Maybe. 1 second.
His bag.
It wasn't the bin men at all. As they have in but sometimes they collect the brown bin, which is all of the garden waste and compost, etc. And
you don't need to know all the ins and outs of my bins, but basically it wasn't them either. It was some van with a big long pole that's sucking stuff out of holes in the street.
wow, what a midway point of the video. So anyway, on to... That noise is too much.
Right, so where were we? They've gone out. Second book that I bought in Book Bar was Mother Naked by Glenn James Brown. Now, I read Glenn James Brown's Ionopolis, his debut, when I was judging the Portico Prize. It's absolutely phenomenal. It is a modern ghost story set in a high-rise block of flats. And yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And we all did. And actually, I think I can say this now, it was between that and the winner that we debated for an hour and a bit. Like, that's how good it was. I don't know how helpful that is to know that you've almost won a prize. Anyway, this I had seen on Ben Reads Good's channel. Then it was promptly on the long list for the Walter Scott Prize. And so I was like, right, I need to get my mitts on it. But it's been quite tricky to find. It's set in Durham. It's historical. It's about sort of a jester/trickster, I think. And just have heard brilliant mutterings and murmuring. So very excited for that. Then we went to Daunt's the day after, and I had a £75 voucher to spend in Daunt's, and so spend it. I did with all of these books. I picked up The Modern Fairies by Claire Pollard, which seemed apt because Mum is a big fan of Claire Pollard's writing. She really loved Delphi, Claire's debut. Also, Claire is a poet, and I do love novels by poets. This is set in Versailles in 1682, so it's historical, which is exciting me because I feel like I'm about to have a big historical reading phase, and is about the people who made up fairy tales for the Queen. So yeah, excited. I also got myself In the City by the Sea by Camilla Shamsi, and this is a book that I thought I was going to read for another vlog that I started but then didn't get around to finishing, which was me picking up first books by my favourite authors that I hadn't read yet, and this is Camilla's debut. I don't know much about it but was intending to read it. However, as is always the case when me and Mum are together, I think we're going to get loads of time to sit and read. We don't, we just end up whizzing about here, there, having an absolutely lovely time, but doing absolutely no reading whatsoever, although going to lots of bookshops and buying books. Also got my Battle of Hastings by Xiaolu Guo, who I talked about in my last haul, I think. Her latest novel, Call Me Ishmael, which is a retelling and gender-bending version of Moby Dick. This, however, is her memoir, Living in Hastings, and I think that title is absolutely genius. So I might be having a bit of a Xiaolu Guo phase very soon. I've mentioned this author before, but like I said, when I get very excited about an author and I think they could be a new favourite, I sort of want to end up getting all of their books and devouring them, and then they invariably end up on my shelves for weeks, months, maybe years.
But actually, I think we need to take the shame away from that. And Mum did a video recently where she mentioned that with just so little shame or whatever. She was like, yeah, that's what I do. And I thought we should be more like that. Why is it that we, you know, books for me, all these books on the shelves, and I talked about this in another video before, they're all the adventures that await me in my reading life. I think that's lovely. Anyway, there's me justifying my purchases when I don't really need to.
So, Layla Lalame, this is The Other Americans, and what I find super exciting about Layla Lalame, from having picked up some of the backlog after reading Dream Hotel, is that every book sounds totally different. So Dream Hotel was speculative fiction. I have to say a big thank you to that because it's made me head to a couple of other speculative books that I've really enjoyed recently. Again, I'll talk about those in my wrap up when it comes. Then she's got The Moors Account, which is really like 1800s historic, deep in history, whatever. Then we have The Other Americans, which I believe is about a man who's hit by a car. He's a refugee, and it's the ripples of that moment and how they go through the local suburban area and people respond to it. And I think it's meant to be, yeah, a very brilliant book, which is why I wanted to get it. Also, this sounds just so brilliant, and I'm so intrigued by what this imprint is doing. This is We Hex the Moon by Molly Hall Seeley. It's a weather-glass novella. I read, I want to say A Earth, that's not right, that's another one that I've got from them, which is about an alternate Earth. I read Estrella by Kate Krumenick, which one person particularly had recommended to me as if you mixed Caris Davies' Clear, which was my favourite book of last year, with another of my favourite books of last year, I Who Have Never Known Men, and I really thought that book was brill. This sounds incredible too. This is about a group of students, I think, who accidentally sort of enchant the moon out of the sky, and she turns up in their apartment as quite an angry woman who's furious with what they've done. And I just love that as a premise. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. So yeah, very excited for that one. And then it seemed only right that when you're in Daunt Books, you should buy a book published by Daunt Books. And me and Mum both got this, and she's talked about it on her channel already. This is Dark Like Under by Alice Chadwick. And this is a bit of a chunkster, but sounded so good. It's set in a northern town in England. As I've mentioned several times in this video, I love books set in the north of England because I love the north of England. And it's a town where a teacher has died, and then we follow some of their students. And I think things get quite dark and disturbing. And I love the haziness of that cover. That looks like summer gothic to me. So yeah, one that I'll probably head to in the summer. And last but not least, from Daunt, I picked up Elfie by Gregory Maguire because it was signed. I absolutely loved Wicked. I read the book way back when I was working in the theatre on a show called Bombay Dreams, which then, spookily, we ended up having Wicked well, then we had Saturday Night Fever and then Wicked, so I worked on Wicked for quite a while, front of house. I have the original imported American edition, which is stunning, and yeah, massive fan, and I've obviously loved the musical, saw it loads of times when I was working in theatre, and loved the film recently. This is about Elphie's childhood and was a no-brainer that I was getting that when I saw it in the shops. Next bookshop I went to was a couple of weeks later when I was in London for a work team day, and we finished early, and so I had a little bit of time to go into a bookshop that I had not perused before, which is Houseman's. And I have Lydia of Lyd Loves, whose channel I will link down below, to thank this, because she'd recently been and vlogged about it, and I've passed it so many times and never been in. I don't know why, because certainly in the future I'll be going often. It's a really fab indie bookshop that has lots and lots of indie presses. I ended up leaving with 3 books from there. The first of which is another of the International Booker Prize long listees. It's the Book of Disappearance by Ibtisam Azem, and this is set in Palestine and looks at what happened if Palestinians disappeared overnight, which feels all too poignant and real at the moment. I should say it's translated by Sinan Antoon. This is one I'm going to head to quite soon. I also picked up a book that I had on my periphery
Personal sort of, periphery
for a while, which is The Rupture Files by Nathan Alexander Moore. And again, as I was saying, I really want to support the trans community by reading a lot more books by trans authors and purchasing them. And this is one such book. It's a collection of apparently quite bonkers short stories. Don't know if you can see the cover that easily. And it's from Hajjal Press, who I actually have another couple of books from. So at some point, maybe I should do vlogs about books from specific presses. Is that something you'd like to see? And then last but not least from there, I picked up Delivery Woman Stories by Eva Wiles, which is published by Influx Press. And apparently it's a stunning debut collection, 13 short stories that dive into the complexities of human connection, the pursuit of meaning, and modern day loneliness. Also big fan of that cover. Then the next set of books are all books that I actually only bought last week in the last few days of April. Last week I was touring all 4 of the home nations, so England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, for a project that I have been filming, which will be edited over the next couple of weeks and then appearing on another channel, but I will be telling you all about. And as I went to lots of different libraries around the home nations, I also wanted to go to lots of indie bookshops.
And so I filmed that other content, library content for the channels, and then there will be a how many bookshops can I get to in a week vlog coming in a couple of Thursdays time, because vlog's going to be on Thursdays.
So a little bit of a spoiler of what I bought in some of them and where I went.
Only half of them, not even half of them actually, because I ended up going to a lot more in the second half of the week. But
first up, when I was in Wales, in Swansea, I went to Cover, and I wanted to try and find books by authors from the home nation that I was in. I think Philip Holloway is Welsh. I could be wrong, but Parthian Press are Welsh, so that felt like I'd half got it right, if not fully got it right.
With the brief that I've given myself that actually nobody else had, so I don't know what I was getting so, I don't know, in my head about it.
This is Untethered. It's a short story collection that sounds a little bit fantastical, a little bit folklore-y. Very excited for it. I have got to make a pact with myself though that I read more short story collections, because I'm an absolute so-and-so for buying them, but they're not so good at getting to them. So yes, we have that. In Bath, I headed, of course I did, straight to Persephone Books. And, well, I left with 3 books, 2 of which I bought and 1 which was very kindly given to me, as we'll talk about, because it's a book that kind of, it's a pinch me moment, is what I will say. The first book that I picked up was their latest published novel, because I can never remember which Persephone books I own. I've got a spare room that I have decorated in homage to Persephone Bookshop. At some point I'll do a video on that, and maybe the Persephone books that I've read so far, because I would like to get back to them, because I've always really loved them. And like I said, I want to look back at the books that I've loved and read before. And my initial plan years ago was to try and read them all in order of publication, but didn't get around to it. Anyway, the latest book, which apparently is flying off the shelves and has gone like, you know, I was talking to Francesca, who runs Persephone Books, who's Nicola, who's set it up's daughter, and she was saying they haven't seen a book sell like this for quite some time. It's Crooked Cross by Sally Carson, and I know very little about this other than it's going wild. And also it was one that I knew I definitely didn't have, and I didn't want to leave Persephone books empty-handed. I mean, I wouldn't have anyway, would I? Because I also picked up the latest of the Persephone Classics, which is the Expendable Man by Dorothy B. Hughes. And I think this is a bit of a thriller, which really, really intrigues me. And then the book that I was very kindly given was William, an Englishman. When I decided to read them in order, this was the first book that Persephone Books published. I absolutely loved it. It's a World War book, which I don't tend to enjoy at all, but I thought this was done so... Back again. Outrageous. It was a book that I thought was done so brilliantly, because it's about a couple who, when war is declared, they're in the middle of nowhere and they have no idea. Anyway, this is now a classic, and this is the pinch me moment, has a quote on the back by me. Honestly, that van is ruining my moment. That was a delight to finally get my mitts on. Then, before I headed to other independent bookshops, I did fall into Oxfam Bookshop, which in Bath is a banger. I also highly recommend Oxfam Bookshop in Stockbridge in Edinburgh, because I did very well there just the other day actually, and I'll be talking about that in my May book haul. I picked up 2 books there. One, which is a bit naughty because it's a review copy and they're not really meant to sell them, but it's gone to charity, so I think that's fine. This is Frail Little Embers by Fija Callahan, and this is a short story collection. Again, sounds a little bit folklory and fantastical, and I'd seen this because very like if you go to Storygraph and look up the Savage reading prompts, you get loads of suggestions for each prompt if you're ever stuck. With Ben Reedsgood's Flamuary prompt for February, I'd seen this and just thought, oh, that sounds really interesting. I haven't heard of it. And then spookily, I had another of those moments where I was like, oh, that's the book that I've been looking for. And there it is in the shop. So yeah, got it. And the other one, which I've seen suddenly everywhere on Bookstagram, was Waist Deep by Lena Maja Ernst, which is translated by Sherilyn Nicolette Helberg from Danish. People are going mad about this book, and I couldn't believe it was there because it's only recently come out, so it's a super duper exciting find. This is about a group of friends who reunite. They all went to school together. There are still simmering tensions and I think possible shenanigans that go on, but it's also looking at how their lives have changed and how they've changed and how therefore the dynamics between them all have changed. So that sounds super duper great. And then finally, I went to 2 other bookshops in Bath. How could I not? I went to Mr. B's Emporium, where I picked up The Mare by Angarad Hampshire. This was another book that was on the Walter Scott long list and has now been shortlisted. And Angarad had actually emailed me and said, oh, would you like me to send you a copy of my book? Would love just to get it in more people's hands. And I was like, no, I will go and pick up a copy of this because I want to support the author, the small publisher. This is giving me, because I think it's quite a confronting and uncomfortable read, but it's making me think of Magda by Micah Ziervogel, which I talked about very recently, which makes you spend time in unsettling characters' minds. I think this is going to be amazing. And then last but not least, how could I not buy this when I went to Toppings in Bath? I also went to Toppings in Edinburgh the other day, but again, I'll have to wait until May book haul for that one. I picked up Red Sword by Borachung, translated by Anton the Hun, her. And I do want to make the dreadful joke that I've now got Anton's Red Sword in my hands. Technically, I suppose it's Borachung's. Well, no, it's both of theirs. Moving on. This is Bora's latest work.
Now, I don't know if it's short stories that feed into a novel or a novel.
Oh, it's a novel. I loved Cursed Bunny and have Bora's second collection that I haven't actually got around to. I know there's another one coming. But yeah, Anton was talking about this on his Instagram the other day, and it just sounds so interesting because it looks at the history of Korea, but if it was set in the future. And I think that sounds amazing. Plus, hello to that. So there we are. That is my much bigger haul than I thought it was for April. I have bought more intentionally. There's just too many good books that are coming out or are out, and you know, what's a bookish bear to do? So I'm gonna go. I hope you're all doing super duper well. I will be back, as I said, with my February, March and April wrap up very soon. I would love to have a chat with you in the comments down below about any of these books. If you've read them and you didn't love them, don't tell me that now. Let me know that whenever it is that I wrap them up. It could be next month, it could be later in the year, it could be in a few years to come, who can say? But yeah, I would rather keep the excitement that I have for them alive until I read them, because I do think it's one thing that I don't love so much about social media with the bookish world, where you start a book, tell people you're reading it, and invariably someone goes, oh, I hated that, or you shouldn't be reading that, you should be reading this instead, which I don't quite get. But anyway, moving on. Yes, I hope you're doing super well. I hope you're doing super well. Thank you for spending time with me, and I will see you in another video very soon. If you'd like more savage shenanigans in the meantime, my Instagram, my Blue Sky, my Patreon, my aforementioned wishlist, all those things are linked down below, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye.